Welcome back to Miller's Construction. Today I'm going to take you step by step through how to install lpsmartside in a board and batten situation. In this specific case, we're using pre-finished Diamond Kote lpsmartside. Diamond Kote is our favorite pre-finished brand of siding. There's various reasons for that. If you haven't checked it out, I'll put a link down in the description below for top 10 tips and tricks, or some tips and tricks on installing lpsmartside. If you haven't watched it, I kind of detail why we like Diamond Kote specifically. It is expensive, but it pays for itself on the back end. So anyways, that's not what this video is about. This video is going to be about installing board and batten. If you've never done it, we have a couple small tips and tricks and an installation process that works for us. So you've got a wall here that we are going to install the rest of this board and batten on. You can see we've already started, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. One more thing I want to touch on before we start some install is this starter board. We feel like it looks better if you have this starter board, this horizontal piece going across the bottom, and it's also a nice control line. So we know that the bottom of our board and batten stays good and straight. Diamond Kote, that's another reason we love Diamond Kote. They offer all of this stuff pre-finished, ready to rock and roll for you. We're gonna start with our staging system here. We just have 4 sawhorses. You know, you see other guys doing it different ways. Once again, I will reiterate, this is the way we do it. It might not be the fastest, but it provides us with a nice, clean, quality job site, clean, quality install. And like I said, maybe not the fastest, but at the end of the day, our siding is done right. We know that it's as close to perfect as possible, and we feel really good about it. All right, so we've got our staging station here. We're fixing to make some cuts. Nail gun, nails. This is the nail gun that we use. This is fairly new to the market. This is the Paslode Tetra Grip. This thing is amazing. It shoots these gnarly little nails, and they just updated the nails too, by the way. They were coming in stainless steel, so they were really expensive. Now they're just expensive, not really expensive. About 300 bucks a box for these things. But the beauty of these are it's a studless system. So when we start nailing all this on, I don't have to worry about where the studs are at. That's the beauty of this. To me, time is money. And if I don't have to sit there and mess with worrying where the studs are at, it's just a wonderful thing. But loads up just like any other nail gun, real quick and easy. We keep the depth control all the way in because it doesn't have trouble driving the fasteners, but that's a thick nail, 0.117 diameter. And it's just got these, you know, they're gnarly looking. Let me hold that up there. Those nails are gnarly looking. They really have some serious, they got a twist feature to them. They got some little barbs hanging out. So this is the nailer that we use for board and batten. I think I'll use it for all LP actually from now on. It's awesome. Okay, Special K is going to cut a piece. So we stage our 16-foot material. We are set up perfectly to where we can cut this stuff in half because we've got 8-foot walls, and this is 16-foot long material. Hardy only comes in 12-foot long material. So all right, very nice. So you'll notice Kay cuts the siding upside down. That way we don't have any paint chippage. You wanna make sure you cut your siding upside down. That leaves you with a nice clean cut. This is a 24 tooth blade. It's nothing special, framing blade from Diablo. They really want you to use a 40 tooth, but you can see how clean that cut was. As long as you cut it upside down, this pre-finished stuff from Diamond Kote, you won't have a problem. But anyways, let's just start installing right here. Very important with the Paslode Tetra Grip earplugs. There's very few nail guns that I have to use earplugs with, but the Paslode guns, they're loud. Even, you know, the cordless ones are pretty loud. This Tetra Grip, man, it blows my eardrums every time I use it. So, I mean, it's good practice to have earplugs in anyways. Anyways, here we go. I need this. Uh-oh. So this is the simple sider, and we just use this little tongue right here. Stick that in. Special K is going to move it over. You good?
Yep.
All right. There's one nail in. Now I'm going to go up top with my simple sider. You good? Yep. Boom, there we go. Ooh, that hit a gap, okay? It moved. Yep, it moved big time. Yep, there you go. There we go. All right. So on occasion, I'm going to hit a gap in this wall because of the sheeting. This is 3/4 1x10s on a diagonal. This is a really old house. So that's our sheeting that we're nailing to, which is a great sheeting. You know, it's solid 1x pine, but there's gaps every 9.5, 9.25 inches. So I have to be mindful of that. That's why I just pepper it. I just use a lot of these nails. So I go like every 6 inches, which I believe LP tells you to, but it's kind of a common sense thing. You really want to put a bunch of nails in this. It's all going to get covered by the batten anyways. So what difference does it make? I like to put quite a few nails in it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and you got to kind of flex these a little bit. You got to kind of push them around. That's sinking those awfully deep. I might have to back that off a little bit. There we go. All right, Rome, here you go. You hold on to that for me, okay? All right, so I just use a ladder a lot of times. It's just easier. I don't know. I don't want to overcomplicate it. We don't have that much siding to install. Just climb the ladder, keep nailing. About every 6 inches. All right, so something you'll notice is we use a scrap piece of LP. This is 3/8 thick, which just happens to be the exact amount of spacing that we need between the bottom of our board and the top of our drip cap. So now that I've got that spacer board in there, Kay is just placing the board on top of that spacer board. That gets us lined up height-wise, keeps us consistent. 3/8 keeps us in warranty. I stick my simple sider in. I pop it one time. We go up to the top. I stick my simple sider in. I pop it again. That's the process. It's just repeat over and over and over again. Now, every 3 or 4 boards, I take this really nice Johnson digital level. I love this level because it's digital and I don't have to think about it. I don't have to look at the bubble. I just turn it on and I can place it against my board and I can hear that audible. I don't know if that's picking it up or not, but I can hear that audible. I don't even have to look at the level and know that that's perfectly plumb just by that audible. So I'll just keep that level on. Johnson makes really, really nice levels. You know, you hear a lot about other manufacturers and their levels, but this one has a really nice vial. I like that it's digital built into it. Like I said, for a siding person, someone that installs a good amount of LP and Diamond Kote specifically, it's just nice to be able to pop this thing up there, listen to the audible. Yep, we're plumb. Keep rolling. We just check it like every 3 or 4 boards just to make sure that we are good to go. So this thing keeps beeping at me, so I'm gonna shut it off. I don't want it to mess up the video. Anyways, all right, I gotta keep nailing here. And the reason we check it is because this has been known to get us off a little bit. We just want to make sure we stay plumb throughout the whole thing. So this is our gauge. This keeps us our gap. Why do we gap it? You have to have this gap. You have to have a 3/16 gap. I don't know if I explained that or not, but this has a tongue on the end of it. So that tongue is exactly 3/16. LP Smartside comes out of the factory really, really dry. And then when it gets out here to the job site, it takes on moisture, which means it grows. So it can grow both horizontally and vertically. So we stick that in there. That gives us our perfect 3/16 gap between every single board. And then We also have a gap at the bottom and we have a gap at the top. That's something I haven't shown yet. Up here at the top, you can see how much of a gap we have. That is specifically for that siding to grow. We want to leave a gap everywhere. That way, when it does take on that moisture, when it does grow, we don't have to worry about it buckling off the wall. So that's the purpose of that. I'm sticking my little orange tool in there. It's set. I'm gonna pop a nail in it. We're gonna go up top. Push it close. There we are. Pop a nail. His job is done. He's going to get the next piece ready. And I'm gonna start blowing some nails in this thing. Oop, that one's a little deep. If you nail one on, it's a little too deep. This nail sinks too deep, in other words. You want to put another one. Now I'm going to start nailing up this side. Something on my wrist. I like to put one right here in the middle. It's set, LP tells you the perimeter's got to be nailed like every 6 inches. That's part of the perimeter. So I put one on. And you can see I'm just peppering it. And once again, this is just our process. This is how we do it. We're not in a huge hurry. We're not, you know, it all pays the same for us. I'm not trying to put on as many squares of siding in a day as I possibly can. We're looking for quality over quantity, quality over value. So we want to make sure it's done right. We're not getting in a big hurry about this. We want it all done right. Diamond Kote's expensive. We don't want to botch it up. We want to make sure that the client is getting every bit of what they paid for on a siding install. So whereas some guys might have a faster approach, we feel like we have a quality approach. Missed a couple. That's what happens when you're busy filming and talking. You start missing stuff. Yep. All right, there's one. Push it over. There's two. Okay. All right, nice, Roman. Hey, Rome, how much are we paying you to work for us today? For what? $4? He's great.
Child labor.
Child labor, man. How old are you, Roman? 7, yeah. 7 years old. $4 a day. What you got to understand is Roman lives here. So he comes outside and helps us. He likes it. He's a worker, man. Always start up here. Okay. And one in the center. Ooh, that one blowed deep. Gonna have to caulk that one. Sometimes you can't help it. You get into a little soft spot in that wood. See that? Anywhere that happens where it blows real deep right there, you want to make sure you caulk that. You don't want water sitting in there. Ladder. Up the ladder. Just a repeating process. That's all it is. Just nailing on boards. There's honestly not a lot to it once you start getting the system down how to do it. Go ahead and put another one. You ready?
Nail it.
All right, so I want to show the folks at home what Kay was doing right here. So on this piece, before we nailed it, before I nailed this top nail, he took his tape measure out and he measured this gap. This is a custom J block, okay? So we basically built this as like a service panel block so we can mount the electrical service panels on it. Got it nice and flashed up here too, by the way. So any rain that comes in there, it's gonna shed right off. But what Kay was checking here is he was checking for consistency. We wanna make sure that the gap between this J-block and the bottom of this board is the same as the top. So who's checking this measurement between here and up here? We want that pretty much exactly the same. Hopefully you can see what I'm talking about there. So he's measuring the top, measuring the bottom. If we needed to make a little adjustment, we can move this gap a little bit. We have plenty of room for expansion and contraction. They're not like so hardcore on the 3/16 steel that you can't fudge this just a little bit. So if we needed to move the bottom over some, even in this situation, if we needed to slam it tight against this one, there's enough expansion over here that's going to take place that it's not really necessary to have a 3/16 every single gap, but we do it for consistency. But when we run into situations like this, it's okay to fudge it just a little bit. If you need to move this 1/8 of an inch or even the full 3/16 at the top of the bottom to make this straight, by all means, do it. It'll make it look better. It's a better system in the end. So, but here's the thing. When you start straight, you end straight. You ever heard that term? So we plumbed this multiple times to make absolute sure that this block that we're mounting this electrical service panel on was perfectly plumb. And then as we're coming across the building with our boards, we're making sure these are plumb. So what do we end up with? A perfect consistent gap. So start straight, end straight. It's a good idea to consistently check with a level, get you out of a bind sometimes. So. One-man installation. Do that with Hardy. It's not happening. All right.
Now,
yeah.
To me, I look great.
Let me check it.
All the way up and down through
I've
there.
got a wonderful 3/8 gap and it looks beautiful. Yep. Boom.
Good. I want this right where it's at.
Okay. Make that dude 33 and a half, 33 and 3/4. Make it 33 and 3/4. Oh yeah.
Come on up. Now hold up. Right there I am.
Okay, we're talking 89 and looks to me like it needs to be 89 and 3/16.
89 3/16.
89 3/16.
I got you.
So that's one thing that's really nice. We will take this scrap piece, which is 3/8 thick. We know we need to be 3/8 gapped above the drip cap, above the window. So anytime you have an exposed edge above a drip cap like that, we just take a scrap piece, set it up there, take our measurement real quick. Super easy. Okay, so here's a little detail for you. We're heading up this peak. Don't worry about that wire. That's a different story. We're going to take care of that. Anyways, we're headed up this peak, and if you've ever wondered, well, how in the world do I cut that on an angle? How do I stay consistent? Well, there's a couple ways you can do it, but we do it the easy way, or at least what we feel like is the easy way. We always take our measurement from the long point all the way down, and we keep that measurement on us. Then what we have is a pattern here, okay? Did you already mark that?
Smart.
Okay, so this is our pattern. We keep this for our pattern. As long as your gable peak stays somewhat consistent, as long as you get this cut one time on a scrap, you're good to go all the way up. And then when we get to the other side of the peak, all you have to do is flip that scrap piece over and you're going down the other side. So that's the way we do it. There, like I said, there's multiple ways you can do it. You can do it with math. Math is a great way to do it as well. But this is just the way that we feel comfortable with it. So if you're having difficulty staying consistent, going up your gable or your eave, whatever you want to call this, we call it the gable, up underneath the overhang. That's how we do it. So we always keep that long point measurement. And then over here, we'll flip that board over, we'll come back down. We just make a pattern. We know that this is a 6/12 pitch, so you gotta be able to know that. You gotta be able to know how to get that angle for a 6/12 pitch. You kinda need to know how to use a square. All right, got quite a bit done yesterday. We got all of the boards on this wall. We got a few more things done too, but a couple of details that I wanted to share with you before we get started on some trims. We're fixing to get started on the Frieze trim. That's what we call this trim that goes up underneath the eaves right here. And there's a specific reason that we install it after the boards. We'll talk about that a little bit, but I want to show you a couple little details on the actual boards real quick on the install. So let me flip this around and show you what I'm talking about. So in this section here, this little detail here, we want this LP as tight as possible to this trim. We're not worried about the siding expanding into the trim if it has a relief gap over here. So you'll notice this gap is a little bit larger than it should be. That's okay because the batten's gonna cover that. What a batten's not gonna cover is a gap over here. Now, we are still going to seal this with some sealant just because even though we did prime that edge, we're gonna seal that with sealant. Up top, it's an exposed edge. So we had to prime that, we have to leave that, and that is done. Right up there above that drip cap that has to be left open. But we like to draw this siding as tight as possible to the trim. It just makes it look better. We've done the same thing over here, nice and tight. If it needs to expand, it's gonna stop here and it's gonna push over into this gap, which is fine. That's what we want to do. We come down here, we've got the same thing. Now, on this last piece, also this is dirty because it was sitting out in the rain just a little bit. We had it covered up with a tarp, but somehow some of it blew up underneath there. So we're gonna have to wash this, but you'll notice we ripped this last piece and you can see we're off just a little bit or the wall's at a plumb just a little bit because we've got a little bit larger gap at the bottom than we do at the top. At the top, we're a perfect 3/16 up here. But at the bottom, we're pretty healthy 7/16, something like that. But what I wanted to show you was, this is our rip edge. This is a factory edge. It's those little details that will set you apart in the install. So we know that our factory edge is going to be exposed somewhat. We are gonna seal this with some sealant, but nobody's ever gonna see this cut edge. It's getting covered with a batten. So flip the board over, install it, factory edge to our trim piece. So, and this is another little detail. I wasn't filming at the time that we installed this, but this is one of those funky situations you get into on a remodel job where siding dies into brick. What this is a Diamond Kote pre-finished outside corner, and there is a flange behind this board that we installed. What we did was we took that outside corner and we ripped half of it off on the table saw and just made a flanged 5/4 trim board, nailed it on, and that just looks cleaner having those boards abut that instead of brick. It hides some of this brick overlap as well, because those bricks, you know, this is a 5/4 board and those bricks were sticking out a healthy, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 inches right there. So, well, you can see it at the bottom. So anyways, that's a nice termination point for us. What else? You can see we've done the same thing over here. This is our custom, we're gonna call this our custom rigid mount from Diamond Kote. So we built this is all Diamond Kote material that we built it out of, but basically there's gonna be 2 service panels here. So we've got one already installed, the second one's coming, but same thing, we put this as tight as we possibly could to that rigid mount, if you will. So we'll get into this a little bit. We're gonna start with our Frieze board up top, and it's just easier to install the Frieze board after you install the battens. So this is our Frieze board. This stuff is 5/4, and what that translates to is approximately, I believe, 7/8 thick. The reason that we want that on afterwards is it just gives it a cleaner look. It gives us not only an expansion gap at the bottom, because we have to have this 3/8 gap above our drip cap, but it gives us an expansion gap at the top. And then when we slam this Frieze board right over the top of it, you don't have to caulk that joint between the top of the boards and the bottom of the Frieze. It just looks nice and clean. Plus, our battens, as you will see here in just a little bit, our battens are approximately 5/8 thick. We want what I like to call a positive shadow line. So we don't want the battens protruding past this in a negative way where water could potentially blow in up underneath the eave and sit on top. By doing it this way, we have a full 5/4 material, which is 7/8 thick, and then our battens are 5/8 thick. You're gonna have a nice reveal, a positive shadow line. So the battens are gonna come in underneath the thickness of this, and if water were to blow in here, it's gonna hit this and it's not gonna have a place to rest on top of the batten. So that's another reason that we do that. So let's get started. We're gonna install this Frieze board real quick. It's pretty straightforward. Okay. Or you could get it to you could use that as a measuring point.
I can, yeah. Let me do that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fine. Web top. Right there.
Right there.
105 and 7/8.
Write it down.
Yep.
Okay. Frieze boards are installed. You can see we left our 3/16 gap everywhere we needed to. We even left a little small gap up at the very top peak. I like to do that just in case. That, you know, that's 16-foot material. You just never know. I like a gap at the bottom and at the top. And LP tells you to do it, so why not? When you get used to it, it becomes second nature. Okay, so here is our Diamond Kote Midnight Blue 1932nd by 3 by 16. So what that equates to is it's roughly 5/8 thick, and it is 3 by 16, so that means this is actually 2.5 nominal, right? I believe I'm saying that correctly. 2.5 wide, 5/8 thick, 16 foot long. We are ready for battens. So now, because these are 5/8 thick, and we're abutting a 7/8 thick material at the top in that frieze board, we have a positive shadow line. So any moisture or water that blows in, gonna hit that frieze and drips down, it's not gonna sit on top of the batten because the batten's gonna be tucked up underneath that frieze. And that's what we want. You gotta be careful and think about these details before you just start installing stuff. But it's really nice that Diamond Kote provides us with battens that are already ready to go and primed on the edges. See that? See how well that's painted? We're ready to install, man. I mean, you get this Diamond Kote stuff, it's ready to slam on the wall, which is just awesome. So we're gonna get started here. We're gonna start down here, work our way that way. Now we do have a little funky situation above this window. Obviously we can't move windows, and we wanna keep our trim a continuous size. So you can see how tiny it is up top. We're gonna have to nail those battens on with a finish nailer. It's just too small. But we'll get it done. So, all right, let's get started. So for the battens, we're using a standard coil siding nailer. The Cruz brothers dropped this one off when they came to see me. This is a great one. This one's made by Max. I had a Bostitch. I thought it was good. Then the Cruz brothers stopped by and gave me this one, and the Bostitch has been in the shop ever since. We don't use it anymore. This one's super nice. But we're gonna be installing these battens, and I'll show you the process of how we do it. Once again, this might not be the fastest, but this is what we prefer. We like installing them in this way. Now, I've got a buddy that works for Diamond Kote. His name's Brandon, and he informed me by watching some of our videos that we were putting more nails than what was necessary in the battens. Because we've been on this project for a while. We've been kind of jumping around. This is our last wall to install. So he was telling me that yes, LP's manufacturer's installation instructions tell you that the battens have to be nailed every 12 inches staggered. But there is a little note in the beginning of some of the installation instructions that tells us that if it's considered a trim board, I believe is what he says. I didn't read the installation instructions for myself. I should have. I was looking for them last night, but I couldn't find the little note. But there's a note in there that tells us that if the piece of LP is over 3/8 or over 1/2 inch, it qualifies as a trim board, and it only has to be nailed every 24 inches. What we're installing is 5/8 thick. Now, if we were installing 3/8 thick battens, we'd have to nail them every 12 inches staggered. But because these are 5/8 thick, we only have to put a nail every 24 inches staggered. 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top, and then staggered every 24 inches. What that does is it cuts down on touch-up time. We don't have as many exposed nails, so we don't have as much touch-up time. So thank you, Brandon, for pointing that out to me. I hope I didn't misquote you. That's the way I understood it. So we're gonna use that method today, and it's gonna hold fine. These nails are fully penetrating not only the LP siding, the boards behind the battens, but it's also fully penetrating the sheathing. So ring shanks, not gonna have a problem with it. So, all right, let's get started. We ready? All right, we're gonna install our first batten here. This is what I like to do. I bring that batten all the way to the top, and I abut that fascia. But what I wanna do is, I wanna make sure I'm on my ladder tall enough to where I can visibly eyeball the center of our gap. And I'm just going to place that batten up there, nail it 1, nail it 2. Now it's just hanging. Now I'm gonna come back down my ladder, set it to the side. Got my level. All I'm doing is listening for that audible. You hear that audible? That means I'm ready to rock. There's a nail. Now I can nail it up. Very simple. So 2 in the top, 2 in the bottom. Staggered every 24 inches. Also something to note, and I've detailed this in my other videos, I like to keep my nail gun depth set proud. Sometimes you have to come back up, give it a couple smacks to set that nail, but I would much rather do that than have to come back and caulk that hole. I don't want to have to caulk it from an overdriven fastener. Using a digital level like this one from Johnson also makes it a lot easier because you can hear it. I don't even have to look at the vial to see if I'm plumb or not. And if it is out just a hair, no one's ever gonna see it. Some people might think, well, it's faster to set up a jig. That way your spacing's all the same. Well, that allows a cumulative error to creep into the job. We don't want that. If it works for you, great. I'm just not doing it. It's not for me. So here's what I'm talking about right here. I just want to eyeball that. Make sure I'm as close to the center as possible. 1 nail, 2 nails. Then I'm coming back down. Go ahead and move my ladder out of the way for just a second. Grab my digital level, turn it around this way. On the money, just that quick. See how easy that is? There we go. Now I'm done with you. And now I can start my nailing process. And then 1 more should get it. So when you're only shooting a nail every 24 inches or so roughly, obviously I'm just guessing. For reference, this is a 24 inch level. You can see I got it quite a bit low there. Yeah, I'm going a little bit closer than 24 inches. I'm just guessing this, you know. I don't have to pull out a tape to see where my nails are at. I don't need to. But my point is, a lot less touch up when you're doing it that way. Also something to note, something to think about. You know, I said that my buddy Brandon gave me that tip or helped me out with that little tip that I didn't know about. He works for Diamond Kote. So if you have a problem or you have a question, just call them. They want to help you. The manufacturers that are producing this stuff, they don't want their product to fail. They don't want to have to deal with warranty issues. Call them. If you have an issue, if you have a situation that you're not sure of how to handle it, call them up. I think that's the problem with a lot of this stuff. A lot of people just, well, it'll be good enough. It'll be what it is. We'll deal with it when it fails. Don't do that. Manufacturers are on your side. Call them up. So this is just a repeating process. You can see how he's got all these just laid out for me. He keeps cutting. He's using a miter saw, by the way, to cut all these. It's just faster, easier. it really does go fast. All right, here's a little tip for you. This is a situation that we run into from time to time. Technically, I'm supposed to sit this batten right there. Now, what does that do? That creates a really tiny wasp nest or dirt dauber nest. It's just not really necessary for that to have that little gap right there. It's not that it looks bad, it's just we know what's going to happen. Can we prevent it? Yes, we can. So take this back down. You can see where I've overdriven a couple of the fasteners, so we've puttied those, and we're going to touch them up here in a minute. What we're going to do is we're going to take this batten and we're going to scoot it over. This is another one of those situations where you have to use discernment. Is LP going to cover this one board if water somehow gets in there because the batten's not centered over that gap? Probably not. Is that actually going to happen though? No. It's common sense stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to slam this batten right against our rigid mount, our homemade Diamond Kote rigid mount. That way we don't have that gap. It looks better. We can caulk that. And what do we have? A couple nails to touch up on the edge. It's not a big deal. So if you run into a situation like that, don't be afraid to just slam that batten right against whatever it is that's really close. It looks worse when you have a little bitty gap. You know, how are you gonna get a caulk tube in there and tool that? It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be really tough. And if that caulk fails, which it won't because I'm using Sashco Exact Color, but if it did, you know the story. So anyways, quick little tip there for you. This is what I'm worried about right here. I want it nice and tight against this, and I want it nice and tight against the top. I know I'm good right there, so I'm fastening it. 2 nails at the top. Now I'm coming down my ladder. I'm gonna move my ladder over. Hold this in, make sure I'm nice and tight. Nail, nail, and we continue with our 24-inch zigzag pattern. Actually, it's going to be difficult to, here we go. So we use the Bosch cordless miter saw, and we've got these nice 8.0 amp hour batteries. They last quite a long time. It was finally time to charge that one. Actually, still had more juice in the tank. I just like to keep mine extra charged up. This is a great miter saw, by the way. All right. So here comes the part that maybe this will teach you something. Maybe this will get you out of a jam. How in the world do you measure the batten when you're on a rake or a gable end where you've got this 612 pitch or a 412 pitch or whatever you're working on? I know it's a 612. I'm just saying, not every gable, not every peak of a house is a 6. Maybe it's a 4, maybe it's a 12-12. Here's how we measure it, okay? This is the easy way, in my opinion, and the most accurate way. I've got my scrap piece. I'm gonna stick it right there, okay? That gives me my 3/8 gap because the batten has to have the 3/8 gap just like the boards. And here's our secret weapon. Laser distance measurer. If you don't have one, you should get one. They've become pretty cheap. This is the Bosch GLM400CL. It's a little bit pricey, but it's a really nice one. I've had it for a couple years now. Actually, I've had it since 2019, 2018, I think. Anyways, it's a good one. What I'm gonna do is, the batten needs to go right in the center of this gap, right? So I've got it set to inches. I'm gonna set my laser distance measure on my spacer block. Okay, that'll get me my 3/8 gap built right in. I'm gonna center that laser right over that gap, and I'm gonna visibly look up, and you can see the dot I don't know if the video is picking it up or not, but you can see that laser, boom. There's my measurement, 112 3/4. And I hit the button on the side, it's just a little bit more accurate. I'm gonna call that 112 11/16. I'd rather it be just a hair bit short. So now I come over here, I give Kay the measurement, 112 11/16. Show me your mark. So he has marked this batten. This is our bottom at 112 11/16. Now that's the center of it. So he's got his saw set to the proper degree for a 6/12 pitch. So what he's going to do is he's going to run his blade right in the center of that mark. Boom. Now see how he dissected the center of his mark right there? This batten should work no problem. This should be the exact size that I need. That, to me, is the easiest way to do it. The Glide Safe. What's cool about this ladder is how easy it is to push up into place. It's got like an assist system. I'll unplug this, and it's so easy. Look at there, boom, boom, boom. You can do that one-handed. It's so smooth. Glide Safe from Werner. Check them out at Lowe's. They are phenomenal. Now, as long as I center this batten over our gap, I know I'll have the proper spacing at the bottom. Back down the ladder. Grab my digital level. Wrong way. Money, 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 money. I'm just gonna tack one right here. There we are. 39 and just shy of 7/8. Centered. Hey, I need that 2-foot level real quick. It's because the starter board is only 3/4. This is the beauty of the Glide Safe from Werner. I mean, I could take my pinky. It's effortless. So if you're moving around, if you're using a ladder all day long, this thing's got like a, how do I word this? An assist system that raises the rungs for you, or raises the ladder for you. Super nice. Glide Safe from Werner. I am a big, big fan of it. Thing is wonderful. I wish it had leg levelers. That would be nice. It would be very nice if they would include some leg levelers with it. That should be standard on all ladders. Those things are expensive. You want to write these down? I'll just go ahead and measure a bunch of them. Go ahead. Yeah, man. 153 3/4 for this one. Yep, 153 3/4 for that one. 153 3/4. 162 1/16. 170 1/8. Okay. This is the reverse. 174 5/8. Reverse. 174 5/8. 166 1/2. 158 3/8. 150 3/8. 142 5/16. 134 3/16. 126 1/16. 117 7/8. 109 13/16. 101 11/16. Now we have all our measurements. How easy is that? Okay, so I'm to the point I have to switch to an 8-foot long level because there's too much of a variance when I'm using that 4-footer. So I'm having to use this one to keep it straight. Not a big deal though. We want it right. There we are. I feel good about it. 2 nails. Boy, it sure would be nice if this nailer was cordless. Pass load. Nope. I do like the ladder. It just needs leg levelers, man. And this nailer needs to be cordless. Just a few complaints. No big deal. Okay. Center it up. Pop it, back down the ladder. I try to hold this 8-foot level up as high as I can, get close to the center as I can, and that helps. And then right there, boom. What's done is done. Yeah, baby. I tell you what, that's one of the best kept secrets in the industry. Brandon, if you're watching this, thank you for hooking me up with the 24-inch on center advice, because it is awesome. Not having to put as many exposed fasteners is awesome. Less touch up, less nails used. I love it. Boom. Boom. She's a hanging. Back down the ladder we go. Scoot it over some.
Stella would send us some levels we might use.
Stabila?
Stella.
Stella. Stabila.
Stellas.
Special K wants some Stabilas.
Stella levels.
Boom.
Stella levels. All right, I got you all cut.
Great. I think I hit a nail. Yep. All good. All good. All right, that concludes this YouTube video. Like and subscribe, comment down below if you have any suggestions or something that you didn't agree with or something you liked. I appreciate the feedback. I didn't see a whole lot of videos on board and batten, Diamond Kote installation, So this can apply for other types of siding as well. It's similar to this, you know, even if you're using like the LP Smartside Expert Finish, same thing. We just prefer Diamond Kote for various reasons, but this is the way we do it. We feel like it's efficient for us and it gives the client a really high-end quality install. So quality control, that's what we're all about. We're not really worried about speed, things of that nature. Yes, it would be nice to have like a lift or something like that, but we're used to ladders. That's the way we do it. So anyways, that's the end of this video. Check it out, see what you think. Does it look good? Does it look okay? I think it looks pretty doggone cool. It's a nice color too, midnight blue from Diamond Kote. And that comes with a 30-year no fade guarantee, which is awesome. We do have to start working on some fascia though. You might have noticed in the video, they didn't send us our drip edge. They didn't send us our last stick of drip for our metal roof, Central States, so we won't be using them anymore. Various reasons there too. Anyways, we got to start on this fascia, so we get that fascia done, we can start in on some caulking with some big stretch and some exact color. But once again, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was informative. Like and subscribe.